What's up, guys? We're back once again to another r/malicious compliance. Got a lot of stories to read and I don't want to waste any time. So let's get right on in it and I'll see you in a bit. Give her anything she wants for free? Okay. Hello, this is my first time posting in this part of Reddit. I only recently discovered it and have a rather long story from my days working in a convenience store that fits this place perfectly. I used to work for a convenience store about 21 to 22 years ago. Let's call it 812. Super subtle. LOL, at the time that I joined them, they were still a division of the Southland Corporation. I ended up working for them for exactly 1 year, 7 months, and 11 days on the button. A very strange coincidence. Anyways, the on to malicious compliance. So I come in one day, around 3 to 4 in the afternoon, and the manager is not there. She has already went home, but left a note. The very first thing she wanted is for me to get straight on the register without delay, as the coworker that was leaving was getting very close to overtime, which is not allowed. No problem, right? Well, there is a small problem. We only had one running register at the time, with a single till. And the store was packed with customers. I couldn't just hop on the register. The coworker that was leaving had to count her drawer down. I then had to recount up the drawer to make sure that it had the correct amount of cash in it. The drawer was supposed to have a specific amount of money in it. The coworker had to count it down to that specific amount, then log what she had remaining to see if there was a discrepancy from her total sales for her shift. Meanwhile, I had to count it up to the specific amount to make sure that she did not make a mistake counting it. All of this had to be done before I could take over the drawer. Following the manager's orders, we start the process as soon as I show up and inform the customers in the store that there would be a brief holding time. While we counted the drawer down and switched the shift, you could hear the moans from the people. Clearly no one wanted to wait. But what could they do besides get into line and wait, right? So there's this one lady. She was complaining under her breath at first. She was about the 8th or 9th customer back in line, of about 25 to 30 people. The store was freaking packed, no joke. I was ignoring pretty much everyone at first, just trying to get through the counting process as fast as possible, so that I could start ringing up people. As my coworker was completing her counting and handing the drawer to me, the lady got louder and louder in her complaining, to the point that she was using a normal speaking voice, like she was talking to the other people in the crowd. No longer just complaining under her breath, I was counting as fast as possible at this point, but she switched from just stating her complaints randomly to intentionally egging on the other customers. She was trying to get them to agree with her and to start a riot in the store, saying things like, "We shouldn't have to wait this long for service, should we?" And "We should get our stuff for free for waiting, right?" to the other customers in line. I noticed that some people are starting to nod their heads at her provocations. At this point, I stopped counting and said loud, "I apologize for the brief wait, but please understand that we are required to count our drawers to prevent losses and theft from occurring. I'm trying to count as fast as possible. I'll just be 1 more minute, and then I can start serving people. Thank you for your patience," and went right back to counting. Well, while that quelled most of the people in line, who started to fidget and shuffle nervously, that just made things worse with the lady. She flipping blew up and started yelling, "We shouldn't have to wait for service. She should get her slushie and sandwich for free." And then she started throwing cuss words around. Mother effer this, F that, left and right. I stopped counting again and looked up at her and told her, "Please, ma'am, stop using profanity in our store. There are a lot of children present." Since there were mostly families in the store, there were about 7 or 8 kids. Again, that just made things even worse. Nothing but non-stop screaming and profanity started spewing from her mouth at this point, screaming at the top of her lungs. I just finished counting my drawer as I told her if she doesn't stop, that she will not be served, and that she should be asked to leave the store. I'm trying to protect the kids in the store at this point, and the line has already shrunk to about 15 people because of people walking out and leaving because of this lady. Well, she took that personally, apparently. She started with the, "You are going to serve me, and I will not leave until I am ready" speech. So I glared at her and said, "Oh, really?" I then promptly told her to leave as I started ringing up people. I told her that I was not serving her and for her to put down her merchandise and get out. Then came the, "You can't make me" line as she literally walked up past the people in front of her, moving them out of her way. As she stepped right up to the counter, I repeated myself, told her to put down the slushie and sandwich, and told her that I'm not serving her, and that if she did not leave, that I would call the police. Long story short, I did have to call the police, but she left just as they arrived. Now you're probably wondering, so where's the malicious compliance? That came the next day. You see, just 15 minutes after the lady left the store, the district manager calls me on the phone and yells at me, "Did you just call the police on a paying customer?" He doesn't let me get in a single word before he starts ranting about customer service this and that, and informs me that this lady will be returning to the store the next day, and that I will be apologizing to her in person, and that I'm going to be giving her whatever she wants for free. The next day I come in, and the manager is waiting to call me into the office, where I receive a write-up for talking back to a customer and kicking them out without valid reason. The manager doesn't let me get in not one single word to explain what happened. She then informs me that when the lady arrives, I will apologize, and then anything the lady places on the counter, she gets for free. I was honestly stupefied by this. I planned on waiting for the lady to show up and telling her to F off, and then quitting, and walking out of the store, leaving no one there. That was my plan. It didn't go that way though. Hours later, after the manager had went home, I was running the register when the lady walks in with her father and husband and cousin and sister and several kids in tow. They all grabbed our shopping baskets and filled them up as she comes up to me and says, "I was told by your boss that I can get whatever I want for free." When I see this, I'm like, no way. She doesn't think that she's getting everything for her whole clan for free, does she? I tell her to hold on just a moment, and I call the manager at home. She is pissed that I'd bother her and doesn't let me get out any more than, "The lady is here. The manager yells at me, telling me that she has already instructed me, and I try again. "Right, but she's here with..." The manager yells at me, "Do you want to be fired?" Just apologize to her and give her whatever she wants. I smile. You want me to give her everything she wants for free? Are you certain? The manager yells back, "Are you stupid? Do you not hear me?" "Yes, ma'am. As you wish." When the lady finally makes it to the counter, I do a very polite bow to her and apologize, making it sound as sincere as possible. I wanted to punch the smug, crap-eating grin right off her face, but I kept it to myself and started ringing up the items in the basket that she was setting on the counter. I explained to her that I had to ring them up first and then cash out the order so that there was a receipt. $780 worth of stuff. I was laughing so hard on the inside. The next day when I showed up, the store manager, the regional manager, the district manager, and one of our company's loss prevention officers were all waiting for me, and I was led directly into the office. I explained that the district manager had told me to give the lady whatever she wants for free, and that when the lady came in with her entire family, I called the store manager at home because I was pretty sure that he didn't mean for her whole family to get free stuff. The store manager yells at me, "You didn't tell me that her whole family was trying to get free stuff." And I calmly respond, "I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen to me. You called me names and asked if I wanted to be fired. So I did as you told me." They began reviewing the tapes, which has great audio detection. It was kinda hard to hear the manager. When I was explaining what she was saying, they could make it out. They asked me to leave the room. I could hear the volume of them going up and down from yelling to regular talking for another hour before I was asked to come back into the office. The regional manager told me that they had just reviewed the tapes from the afternoon that incident with the lady took place, and he apologized to me and said that the lady had called the office and made up a whole pack of lies about what happened, and that the DM had not reviewed the tapes before calling me. I was told that if the DM had done his job properly, none of this mess would have happened. I was then told that the lady was permanently banned from our store. If she returned, to call the police and have her trespassed. That's the end of it. I never did see the lady again. And just 2 weeks later, we had a new DM and a new store manager. I still love thinking about that to this day. I am so glad that I did not just tell her to F off and walk out. You want us out at a certain time? Enjoy the failing health score. This was from a few years ago, when I worked at a small burrito chain, no more than 12 or 13 locations. At the time, I'd been working for that company about 5 years, and had bounced around to a few other stores, and was one of the few full-time non-managers in the company, and had become what is affectionately known as kitchen bitch, which just means that I did every single station and relieved people so they could go on break. Eventually, we became a decently successful company. Successful enough that another larger company bought us out and installed their own people as the new company heads. Normally, there's no problem when something like that happens. A few company policies changed, but nothing major. However, one thing they wanted us to do was to be out of the store a half hour before we closed. I have no idea why they decided on that, but whatever, we had to comply. At most other locations, that wasn't a problem. However, the location I was at the time, was always busy close to closing. So it often took us an hour to an hour 10 to close, because we couldn't get most of the closing things done because everyone was either making food or taking orders. So when it came to closing the store, we'd be running around trying to wipe everything down, sweep and mop the floors, and get the food down to a safe temperature to store it at. Even at our fastest closing time, it still took about 45 minutes. We eventually get a few scathing calls from our new corporate managers asking why it was taking so long to close. And after explaining it to them, they said something along the lines of, "I don't care, just get everyone out by 9. And so, that was the same night my manager looks at the clock and tells everyone to clock off right now. We were all confused as we had just barely gotten the floor swept, and there was still a good amount of food waste on the floors. But the manager just relayed the message from corporate and had us clock off. This went on for a month, and as you can assume, the state of the restaurant fell far and fast. We even had a bit of a pest problem at this point, where someone had called the health department. The health inspector came, and after looking around, asked the manager about our daily closing procedure. Then gave us a failing score and shut us down. Needless to say, corporate was not happy. We had a big staff meeting at the store, and after we explained to them for the umpteenth time that we were busy at the end of the night and can't close in the time frame they want us to, they eventually said something along the lines of, "Do what you have to, just don't get a failing grade again." If I don't like it, I should complain. If you say so. The summer between my freshman and sophomore years in college, I opted to take a Calculus 1 course at my local community college and transfer the credits back to my university on the other side of the state. The professor for this class was, in a word, egotistical. In another word, incompetent. This man that bragged that in all his years of teaching, not a single student received a 100% mark on any test. You may be able to guess where this is going. Throughout the semester, my classmates and I argued with him constantly about his ridiculous grading and teaching methods. We once argued with him because he gave us a test for a unit he hadn't taught yet, but he didn't believe us, simply stating that we were just trying to save face. He ended the class that day by saying, "If you don't like it, complain to someone who cares. I've got tenure, you don't." Challenge accepted. That was the first time I sent an email to the head of the math department that semester. It was not the last. During our midterms, he said that we could take the test online and that we didn't need to show up. But if we did, there would be an extra credit opportunity. Needing all the help I could get, I went to class that day. He got offended that only 3 people showed up and turned the extra credit into a mandatory assignment worth about 25% of the midterm grade. That night, I took a screenshot of the e-learning page outlining the optional extra credit assignment for the midterm day, and his furious email to the class where he chunked the grade of everyone that didn't show up by a flat 25%. Got an 85% on the test, but didn't show up? That's now a 60%. Understandably, people were pissed. After the midterms, he came back to class and apologized for his outburst. It was his error, and would now be teaching that unit he somehow skipped over, totally glossing over how he screwed a bunch of people out of the midterms. Now he decides the unit we skipped will have another test based on it. And it would be 2 questions, multiple choice. Hell yeah, we thought, this'll be easy. On test day, we get a single sheet of paper, and the score breakdown is written on the top of the sheet. 1 point for signing our names, 98 points for the first question, and 1 point for the second question. As soon as he had his back turned, I snapped a photo of the test with my phone. Why? Because the second question was a trick question, disguised as a throwaway, and I remember his bragging about no 100%s. Question 2 seemed innocuous. Seemed. Which is the first Pokemon? Choose the most correct answer. A. Bulbasaur, B. Rhydon, C. Mew, D. Arceus. Some of you may know that all answers are correct in some way. He wouldn't accept any one answer as the most correct. When the class was going over the answer to the test, he was proud to say that everyone passed, but nobody got 100%. There was confusion until he asked if anyone knew the answer to question 2. I ended up being the one to break the news that all answers were correct and how. He agreed with my assessment, yet still stood firm that none of us got it right, simply by the wording. He was so smug that he got one over on us yet again. That day was email number 3 to the head of the math department, which actually led to the woman in charge asking me to come to her office the next day to explain in more detail what was happening. So I went to the head of the math department. Let's call her Dr. Math. Now, Dr. Math had me go through each and every email I sent to her and explain in as much detail as I could what had happened, how, and why. By the end of the meeting, she had a very full notepad, thanked me for my time, and sent me on my way. My professor was not pleased that he received another warning from Dr. Math, telling him to shape up and pull his head out of his ass. In comes malicious compliance. He decided that it was high time that we stopped fussing about with the trivial stuff and got even more strict with class rules, grading, attendance, you name it. He opted to stick close to the rules laid out in the College Board handbook and hadn't been updated in several years. One of the rules was that as soon as class began, the door was to be locked and nobody was allowed in late. This was especially problematic for us, since class was during rush hour in the middle of a downtown area. A lot of people, including myself a few times, missed out on the whole class because of traffic, and had to immediately head home in that same traffic. Tension slowly built, and grades suffered, until finals time, when it all came to a head. He decided to take pity on us, and have our finals at the beginning of finals time, so we could get it out of the way and have more time to focus on other classes, or just more free time. He then put up our final on the e-learning site and said there was no campus meeting for the final class. Just take the exam and have a good rest of the summer. Paranoid as I was, I took a screenshot of that. Exam day comes and goes. I did decent with a 90%. Then I noticed my final grade was a big fat 0%, and he had changed the online message to state that the online exam was merely a practice, and that the on-campus meeting was moved to another day earlier in the week. We met on Thursday. He set the final exam for Tuesday, and then edited the online post to say it was on Monday. The post had been edited on Friday. Screenshots all around, in a lengthy email sent to the good Dr. Math. My grade was back to where it should have been, and that professor had his employment terminated. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and if you did, consider subscribing. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.